led to the fall of the Republic, so that's an interesting tie-in. And then one of my surrogate sons got me the history of the late Roman Empire, which is uncomfortably paralleling our current events.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say much more than that. History doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes.
Yeah. It echoes, doesn't it? Yes.
And then, we had our agreement to read book recommendations.
We did. Before we get into that, I thought I would talk a little bit about some recent reads that I have read.
Please do.
And I think I shared this one with you already, and I think you put it on your list. It's called Strange Practice by Vivian Shaw, and it's about a doctor for monsters. So basically, that's her thing.
Fascinating.
Her father's practice that she inherited, and she doctors ghouls and vampires and werewolves and mummies, and I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And on the more serious side, I did read The Choice by Dr. Edith Eva Eger, and it's a tough read. She's a Holocaust survivor, but she's also a shrink, right? She's a doctor, and this is her memoir from that time, but how you can use some of what she learned in how you choose to live your life. And so I thought it was a really solid read. It was a little devastating at times. I had to read it in small pieces because it was pretty hard.
I'm not sure I'm up for that kind of reading right now.
But it was a really, really good book, and she's an amazing person. And then I read The Inheritance by Orchidia Divina, and that one is magical realism. And it's weird and just strange, but there's all this family dynamic, and basically it's about this woman who is very secretive, and she has family, and she marries, but she shows up in this valley one day with a house all of a sudden in the middle of nowhere, right? And the people start to accept her over time, but she doesn't ever leave. And so you're kind of unraveling how she got there and why she never left, and then all sorts of magical realism stuff happens. It's really beautifully written, and it's bizarre and strange and lovely.
That's The Inheritance?
The Inheritance by Orchidia Divina. Yeah. All right, let's get to the meat. Let's get to this. So we agreed when we met last time that we would each read a book recommended by the other.
Right.
And then have a conversation about it. So do you want to go first?
Well, you recommended The Woman Who Would Not Be Silenced.
Yes.
It was a story that I had already known from study of history, and particularly Chicago history. It takes place in central Illinois and then in Chicago. And now my brain isn't working. I'm blanking on the woman's name. Elizabeth.
Yeah, I can't think of her name, but the author's name is Kate Moore. I can tell
Kate
you
Moore,
that.
yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, Elizabeth Parsons.
Yes, that's it. Parsons.
Anyway, she is persecuted by her husband, Theophilus, for her beliefs, and is declared insane on his say-so, locked up in a mental institution for several years. Finally is able to get out, and in the process, we and she discover that in that time, pre-Civil War, middle America, anywhere in America essentially, husbands had total control of their wives and could simply lock them away in an institution
for
whatever reason.
Yeah.
I found it interesting in part that Theophilus's reasons had to do with differences in Lutheran theology, and that his take on the theology that he claimed to be correct wasn't even genuine. Mm-hmm. He just adopted it because somebody who had that particular synod belief was going to give him money for a church.
Yeah. I was just appalled.
So as appalling as it all is, and it is, and it's difficult to believe that those things could occur, but
Well, and the brutal
different
conditions of
right of the asylum,
asylum.
which were
Standard.
actually, when you read that, it was not as bad as a lot of other places. There were a few times in there I just had to question, how could you be so stupid?
Yeah, well, but
We're supposed to believe that you're this very smart, perceptive woman, and you fall for some of the... I don't know.
I
That
think-
disappointed me slightly.
yeah, I think also though that thinking about women and their position at the time, I think that there was a certain level, in my opinion, of her not having options to think otherwise or do otherwise in some of those instances. And yes,
I do
agree.
buy it.
I agree
But
that
there
there
were
were moments
times-
when it's like, are you kidding me? Really? But
That you've been listening to what's been going on around you.
yeah, but I think she wanted to believe in somebody,
Yes.
and she wanted to believe that she could be helped, and that she didn't want to believe she would be betrayed over and over by people.
But she was, even after she
Yeah.
won her case.
I know it's
She continually seems to make
and
poor
yet
decisions about who to trust, even her own children.
she changed the world, right? That we
Well,
as we
she
know it.
did. She did force changes in the laws. I will give you that. I also had some issues with Ms. Moore's writing. It's clear she's a reporter, and at times it became a little breathless and I thought overly sensationalized. But I'm used to reading academic histories, not... There were just some times in there where her choice of presentation bothered me. Like, oh, but little did she know that it's
Well,
like...
I like Kate Moore though, and she wrote the Radium Girls as well,
Yes.
which was quite good.
But that was a different... The whole... Her whole tone with the Radiant Girls was different. At least I thought so. It was more straight up reportage.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Is that goes back to what you were saying. She's kind of a reporter, and
Right, but the Radium Girls was more straight up reportage. This felt more personal crusade.
Well, I think that too, depending on she was able to interview people for the Radium Girls, right?
Yeah,
and with the other book, it's all ephemera. It's all
or dependent on letters written,
Right.
and
yeah. So
Okay, yeah, I
think
get
there's
it.
a difference
There's
in the material.
Yes, there is, and depending on your source materials and then your own interpretation of the source materials, it profoundly affects how you do
And
that kind of writing.
and I
I do get it.
I recommended it to you for a couple of reasons. One, because I just thought that was a fascinating piece of history, and you are a history
Yes,
kind of
and
guy. And also because I thought you would appreciate the kind of the... I don't read a lot of the books that you read. They seem very dry to me, like, the
yeah,
Roman
I understand that.
history of the Roman
I get
Empire.
it.
So I thought that reportage style would suit you, but it's interesting that was the part that that you didn't love.
click with.
Yeah.
And again, I knew the story. This was a whole lot more depth and detail to the story, which I found fascinating. I really did enjoy that. And for the most part, I can't say I didn't like her style. There were just a few chapters there where I thought she just kind of went off the rails.
Okay.
Right around the time that Elizabeth is setting up for her court date, there was a lot of this hinting but not reporting. And then after
I think she was probably trying to dramatize it, and I don't think that's her strong suit.
Right. And then after she published her book, but when her sons were just not... She thought she was going to have this grand reunion with them, and they turned against her.
Yeah.
That was a little bit...